Hello, once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our virtual classroom. Today we will be talking about dividing decimals, or rather we're going to be dividing by decimals, dividing with decimals. Suffice it to say that we are going to be dividing and we're going to be dealing with decimals. And so we're going to be doing SB 1-5. And so with that in mind, let's go to our OneNote notebook here as I share my screen. Okay. Let us go to OneNote. And once you're on OneNote, click on your folder, obviously. Go to classwork and go to 1-5 to dividing with or dividing decimals. Obviously, SB 1-5 work is where we're going to be uploading a picture of our notebook to show our work. And as we go to my notebook, to my personal notebook where we're going to be copying our notes, please remember that I have also uploaded that onto the notes section under number 4, SB 1-5 dividing by decimals or dividing decimals. So let's go back to our textbook over here. Okay, so if we look at my notebook and we look at the heading, I encourage you to pause this video and copy all of this down like we have begun to do. That is way too big. Let's make this smaller. Sorry about that. Okay, I think that's big enough. Yes, maybe that's perfect. Okay, so yes, so I encourage you to copy this down. There we go. So we're going to begin with SB 1-5, dividing decimals. The page number is going to be pages 19 through 22. Please take note that this is our 4th lesson. The date of this class is August 27th. And unfortunately, I do have some bad news for you, ladies and gentlemen. Right here, it says that we're going to be doing numbers 4 through 11. That is not so. We're actually going to be doing numbers 4 through 8. So I know you guys are a little bit disappointed. We're doing a lot less than what I originally intended. I didn't notice this mistake until after I had already posted all these things online. And so just please take note of that fact. We're going to be doing numbers 4 through 8. All right, moving on. Moving on. So let me clear our screen. All right, so today, ladies and gentlemen, as the title implies, we are going to, firstly, we're going to divide decimals by whole numbers. In other words, we're going to start with a decimal, and then that decimal is going to be divided by a number that does not have a decimal. And our second objective today is that we will divide whole numbers and decimals by decimals. So in this time, the decimal is going to be on the outside. And that's going to make a little bit more sense in a little bit. And so let's start with an example. Let's start by an example. This is example number 1, EX1. And we have 18 divided by 6. 18 divided by 6. Now, another way of writing this, ladies and gentlemen, will be to have the 18 on top as a fraction, and we're going to have 6 right below that. This means the exact same thing. This is 18 divided by 6, 18 divided by 6. And either way, the only way we can really work this out is by using a fraction bar, which I have right here, a fraction bar. And ladies and gentlemen, in both scenarios, we need to remember, this is really, really, really important, that the first number will always go inside. And that is what it says right here. The first number goes inside. The first number goes inside. Please look at yourself in the mirror and say that to yourself. The first number goes inside. The first number goes inside. Not the biggest number, not whatever number. I know that in some elementary schools they teach that the biggest number always goes inside, and that is not true. The first number will always go inside. So in this case, the 18 comes first. The 18 comes first. Therefore, the 18 is going to go inside the division box. Okay, so again, the first number goes inside. And so with that in mind, obviously the second number is going to go outside. So the first number is being divided by the number on the outside. Okay, the name of the number that goes inside the division box is called the dividend. a student once told me that she remembered this by thinking of this as a den, and so the dividend goes inside the den, or the division box, and the outside number is known as the divisor, and so that one is on the outside. Okay, so the first number goes inside, that is the dividend. The number on the outside, the number that we're dividing by, that's called the divisor. So just a few terms for us to know. Okay, so let us move forth with this example. So let's actually work this out. Let us do 18 divided by 6. So obviously the 6 goes into 1 0 times, but it goes into 18 exactly 3 times. So my answer, because 6 times 3 is 18, there is nothing left over, so therefore my answer would be 3. That is the answer. 6 times 3 is 18. Perfect. We understand that. Very good. Moving on, let us go to a second example. This time we're going to make the dividend, the first number, is going to be a decimal. So let me work this off here on the side. So let's do 1.8. So the first number is going to go inside, so 1.8. And that's going to be divided by the second number, which is 6. Now notice how 6 in both example 1 and example 2, that is a whole number. It does not have a decimal, okay? So even though there's a decimal here on the dividend on the inside, there is no decimal on the outside. So we're just going to divide the same way normally would, except that I'm going to immediately move this decimal up to the top to know that it's going to be part of the answer. 6 goes into 1 0 times. 6 goes into, so I'm going to move on. So 6 goes into 18 3 times. 6 times 3 is 18. So I'm ignoring the decimal, obviously. And that would be my answer. My answer would be 0.3. Okay, if you doubt that, well, let's work that out. 0.3 times 6. I'm going to use multiplication to check it. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. And we have one decimal place, so therefore it's going to move one decimal place. Notice how I'm back to the beginning. I get 1.8. Okay, so again, the only thing that I did is that I just moved the decimal up and then I divided exactly as I normally would. Perfect. So now let's switch things up a little bit. Let's explore a scenario where the decimal is going to be on the outside on the divisor. Okay, there's going to be a decimal on the divisor. Okay, for example, let's say that we have 18, so a whole number, 18, there we go, 18 divided by a decimal, 0.6. So the divisor, the number of the outside, is now the one with the decimal. Okay, so let's set this up. We have 0.6 on the outside, but on the inside, remember the first number goes inside, so the 18 goes inside. So that's going to be 18 divided by 0.6. So step number 1, ladies and gentlemen, first number goes inside. We know that. That's just what we did right here. The first number still goes inside. We have the divisor on the outside. There's a decimal on the outside. Step number 2. And for those of you who can't read my writing very well, I'm going to write it for you right here. Step number 2, we're going to move the decimal of the divisor, which again is the number on the outside, all the way to the right. So we're going to move the decimal of the divisor. So again, we're working with the divisor. That's the decimal that we're working with. The decimal on the outside. We're going to move this decimal of the divisor all the way to the right. So I'm going to take it and move it. In this case, I'm only moving it 1 decimal space because it's making it 6/10. So I'm moving it 1 decimal space over. So now it's going to be a number 6. Good. So we're moving it all the way to the right. It's a whole number now. Okay, step 3. And again, I'm going to type this out here. Step 3. Now we're going to move the decimal of the dividend. So I'm going to do that in pink, of the dividend. That's the number inside. To the right as many times as the divisor. as many times as the divisor. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, since we moved the decimal once on the dividend, I'm going to do the same thing on the divisor. And you might say, well, Mr. Lugo, where's the decimal? Remember, whole numbers do have decimals. They are already at the end. And so since there's nothing there, I'm going to move it and add a 0 right here. So now my new division problem, if you will, is 180 divided by 6. Okay? So I went from 18 divided by 0.6 to now 180 divided by 6. In later classes, I'll cover exactly why this is true or why this is allowed. I don't want to move too fast, but suffice it to say that these two, the relationship between 18 and 6/10 is the same as the relationship between 180 and 6. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Let's go ahead and work this out first. Okay, so let's put 180 inside because that's the first number, 180. And we're going to divide that divided by 6. And let's see what we get. 6 goes into 18 3 times. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 minus 18 is 0. We have to evaluate the 0. It's already there. 6 times what gives you 0? 0. 6 times 0 is 0. We have no remainder. So the answer would be 30. This is my answer, 30. Okay? Now, so that you will believe me, I'm going to work it out with a calculator. Okay, I'm going to work it out with a calculator. I wish I could show you on the screen, but try it out. I challenge you to try it out. I'm going to do this first one, 18 divided by 0.6 or 0.6, 18 divided by 0.6, that gives me 30. Wait, 180 divided by 6, again, that gives me 30. So as you can see, even though it seems like I changed the numbers, and I did, I changed them both by the same factor. Notice how I moved the decimal on both of them the same direction. Therefore, the answer is still going to be the same. Let's try another one. Let's try another problem. And again, I encourage you to pause, rewind, and see this again if it didn't make sense to you. So let me clear everything. And let's go to my second page. Make this larger. Let's try example 4. So don't worry about these things down here. Let us zoom in. And let us try example. Let me zoom in some more. Here we go. And let's try example number 4, which is right here. We have, it looks similar, but the decimals are in different places. We have 1.8 divided by 0.06. So now we have a decimal both on the dividend and on the divisor. Okay, so I'm going to do the 1.8 actually in pink so that we can see the difference. All right, so we have 1.8 divided by 0.06. So if we look at it at our notes at the other page, which I encourage you to do so because you have your notes right in front of you, remember that we must first, we don't like having decimals on the outside. That's really what it comes down to. We don't like decimals on the outside. Anytime we have a decimal on the outside, we want to change that. And what I need to do to change that is move this decimal over not just one time, but twice. All right. And since I moved it twice on the outside, I have to move it twice on the inside now. So I'm going to take this decimal and move it once, twice. So now that means I have to add a 0, and my new numbers, and I'm just going to rewrite the whole thing. My new numbers are 180 divided by 6. And that should look familiar, actually. You'll see what I mean in a little bit because I moved it all the way over. 006 is the same thing as 6, right? So 6 goes into 18 3 times. This is a 0. Bring down the 0. 6 goes into 0 times. My answer is 30. How can we get the exact same answer? ladies and gentlemen, that is because the relationship between 1.8 and 0.06, so 1 and 8 tenths and 6 hundredths, is the same as the relationship between 180 and 6, and which is the same as the relationship as 18 and 6 tenths. If that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it. Just know that this division, this ratio, is the exact same thing. If you don't believe me, try it on your calculator. 1.8 divided by 0.0630. I got the exact same answer. The only thing I really want you to get now is that we do not like to see decimals on the outside. Anytime there's decimal on the outside, we have to move it. And however many times you moved it on the outside is the same thing. You have to move it on the inside. Okay. With that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, let us turn our attention to our actual assignment. Give me 1 second. Let me zoom out just a little bit. And just to show you where that is actually at. So we're going to begin with number 4. And if we go to our textbooks, we see that number 4 is found on page number 21. So I think it's like the 3rd page down. So I encourage you to zoom in. And an easy way to zoom in is to simply hold the command key and then press on the plus sign. That's going to make it zoom in. And then if you do command minus sign, that makes it zoom out. Okay, so number 4, you see this. We have A, B, and C. We have A, B, and C, and it simply says complete. What does that mean? It says 231 divided by 5.07 is equal to something divided by 507. Ladies and gentlemen, all of what this is really asking, and I'm just going to go back to my notebook. If you can see, I just copied it down. 231 divided by 5.07 is equal to something divided by 507. Notice how really all of what they've done is that they move the decimal over twice. So really they just want us to divide this. Let me show you. Let's just put this into perspective. So we have 231. Remember, the first number always goes inside, divided by 5.07, correct? All right, so remember, we do not like decimals on the outside. So I'm gonna get rid of that decimal by moving it over 2 times. And because I moved it 2 times, I must move the decimal right here. Remember that whole numbers have decimals. I have to move it 1 time. So that's going to be a 0. And I have to move it 2 times as well. So my new numbers that I have here, really, this is the same thing as 23,100, decimals now over here, divided by 507. So notice how this 231 divided by 5 and 700ths is the same thing as 23,100 divided by 507. Notice how that is 507 over here as well. Okay, so that's all we're doing. We're just putting it into this form, getting rid of the decimal, and whatever number was on the inside or is now on the inside, that's the number that's going to go there. Let us do the next one, and I think it's going to make a little bit more sense. Let's try it out. Let's try 4B. So 4B, let's use a different color just to keep things interesting. 0 and 4,472 10,000ths divided by 315 thousandths is the same thing as what divided by 315. So let's do the same thing. 0, 0, and 4,472 thousandths divided by let's use pink or yellow, divided by 0 and 315 thousandths. So let me ask you a question. Do we like decimals on the outside? Do we like decimals on the divisor? No, we do not. So we're going to take this decimal, we're going to move it over 1, 2, 3 times. So now it's a whole number. Now it's 315, and we're going to do the same thing on the dividend. So I'm going to take this and move it over 1, 2, 3 times. So now what I'm actually doing is 447.2 and 2/10 divided by 315. So what goes inside? 447 and 2/10. See, these two expressions are exactly the same thing. That's what goes inside. You will do C by yourselves now that I've already done that one. Okay. However, I don't want to make this video too long, and so I'll go over number 5. Number 5 is a little difficult, so let's go over number 5. Let me clear everything. Okay, number 5, and let us zoom in just a little bit. Okay, it reads, EM makes bead bracelets. Okay, she can buy 12 beads for $2.04 or 17 beads for $3.57. Which deal gives her the lower cost for one bead? Explain. Okay, let's see the important information. So we see here two different rates. She can either make 12 beads, and that is too thick. Let's make it thinner. Okay, and let me erase this. Okay, so she can either buy 12 beads for this rate, $2.04 for those 12 beads, or she can buy 17 beads for $3.57. And anytime we're dealing with money and we're talking about a better deal, we want to see what is the best cost per bead. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the better cost, which cost is always in terms of money per one bead, the cost for each one bead. All right. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to make a fraction. We're going to make a ratio. We're going to talk about ratios a lot more in the future. Trust me. That where we're going to put the money on top and the bead on the bottom. We're going to divide, see what we get. So let's do this first one. So $2.04 is the cost. So $2. Let's do it here. So we have so cost per bead. So the first one is $2.04 for 12 beads, I believe it was. And it is. And the second one is $3.57 for 17 beads. So that's going to be $3. That's not right. $3.17 for 17 beads, was it? Let me double check, make sure my numbers are correct. $3.57 for 17 beads. So let me change that. $3.57. 57 cents for 17 beads. So if you notice, when I read it like this, it's a division problem. $2.04 divided by 12, 3.57 divided by 17. So let's work each of these out. So I'm going to do it here on the side. So $2.04 divided by 12. So let's work this out. Remember, so I'm going to move this decimal up already. So 12 goes into 2 0 times, but it goes into 20 once. That's going to be 12. And that's going to be 8. Bring down the 4, because 20 minus 12 is 8. And 12 goes into 84 7 times exactly, because 12 times 7 is 84. So therefore, the cost per bead on this first one is 17 cents. So 17 cents per bead. Seems pretty good. Let's try the second one. We have 3.57. First number goes inside, divided by 17. 17 goes into 35. 17 times 2, I can't do math right now. 2 times, I believe it's 34. 2 times 10 is 14. 2, yeah. So it's going to fit twice. So that's going to give me 34. And again, remember this decimal is already up here. Okay, 34. So now we subtract. That's going to give me 1. Bring down the 7. 17 goes into 17 exactly 1 time. So 17 times 1 is 17. So that gives me a cost per bead of 21 cents. So if you notice, 17 cents is better per bead than 21 cents per bead. So therefore, this is the better deal. This is the better deal because that is the cost per bead. And that's what you would put on Schoology, that is the cost per bead. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you're gonna have more questions. Hopefully you can answer these as you're working with your classmates, but I just wanted to go over that one with you. And if you have more questions, please send me an email. I hope that you're doing well, and I'll see you in class soon enough.